Hey there, thanks for listening and welcome to the Marketing Matchmaker podcast. If you're looking to grow your business, increase your revenue, and scale your impact, all while staying true to who you are and the people you serve, this is the show for you. I'm Jennifer Tamborski, digital marketing strategist, fractional CMO, and founder of Virtual Marketing Experts. My team and I work with 6- and 7-figure coaches, consultants, and online entrepreneurs who are tired of playing the guru game of one-size-fits-all marketing. They're ready to create a business and marketing strategy that actually builds relationships with their ideal clients, creates massive shifts in their business, and rapidly increases their revenue. As your marketing matchmaker, I'm going to help you find the perfect marketing match for you. This show will teach you how to reach your ideal client, connect with your audience, build that perfect relationship, and generate more revenue. All through a process I like to call dating your ideal client. Now let's go have some fun. Hey there, welcome back to Marketing Matchmaker. Today I am super excited to have Robert Foster as my interview today. I actually have a bio of him, but here's the reality. I met Robert by getting on his live streaming podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I was super impressed with who he was and his story. So rather than going into a boring bio about someone, I really wanted to invite Robert to just tell us about him. And then we're going to talk about what he does, which is StoryBrand. And if you don't know what StoryBrand is, you are absolutely going to want to listen to the end of this video because it will change your marketing perspectives forever. Welcome, Robert. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So, as I said, I was super impressed with your story, with your background. So share with the audience kind of where Shut Up and Grind came from and how you got started down this path.
All right. Well, you have to go all the way back to my childhood. So I'm the youngest of 7 siblings, and we were all athletes. My parents were also athletes. Well, at that stage in their life, they were in a bowling league. but but my father was a borderline Olympian, and he would have been if Vietnam didn't break out in the 60s. So we always had that competitive push. But with me being the youngest, kind of developed a little chip on my shoulder because the older siblings, they were winning ribbons and trophies and awards, and so obviously they were garnering more of the attention from my parents. But then at a young age, I figured out if I just start crying, mom will come to me. so they will all tell you that I was such a crybaby growing up. But I was still watching them because I wanted that attention they were getting, and not just from our parents, but getting their headlines in the paper, getting their pictures in the paper, being mentioned on the news. And through all of that, I got labeled so-and-so's little brother.
Oh,
and
that's never fun.
It. Oh, I hated it. And now mind you, I'm the youngest of 7. So this went on for a long, long time.
You were always somebody's little brother.
Yes. Oh, man. And so, but where the shut up and grind mentality came from was my dad. I mean, my mom too. My mom, she was a total workaholic back then, because you figure we're a family of 9. Yeah. So she was constantly working. And dad, he was an engineer, and he was constantly building, and there was nothing that he couldn't do. No matter what roadblock he hit, he just found ways around it. It's like, if this is what I want, this is what I want. I just give you a quick story to summarize, and then it'll make it all crystal clear. So my parents bought a new refrigerator, and they bought a new dining room table. And so their kitchen and dining is kind of one room. And so they both come in, but now when you went to open the door to the fridge, it would hit the table. And so we couldn't really move the table because then we couldn't open up the door. Right? So the door to come in and out of the house. So normal people would have returned one of the two and got something smaller to make it fit. Now I'm gonna show you the essence of shut up and grind. So I'm driving down to my parents' house to visit, and I pull in the driveway, and the siding on the half of the house is ripped off. This dude reframed the house to reverse the window and the door because he wanted that table and he wanted that fridge. So he had to redo wiring. He had to replace some switches. He had to like cut stuff off, reframe it completely, re-insulate it. Because he wanted what he bought.
That's awesome. I mean, that really is awesome. I do have to say, your poor mother, but
she understood. She knew just when his wheels are turning, just stay out the way and let him do what he does. But growing up with a dad like that, he just taught us no matter what happens, you keep moving forward. He's like, things are gonna be tough. He's like, people are gonna notice the color of your skin. He's like, it's up to you to help them see beyond it. He's like, be so great that no one can deny you.
That's fantastic. That is a fantastic upbringing and mindset to instill in your kids.
Yes, and now I'm doing the same with my crew.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So your part of your story, I know, also involves an injury that you had several years ago. So tell them about that.
Yes, so the injury changed everything. It changed absolutely everything. So before we get to the injury, we have to get to the buildup for the injury to happen. So I had let myself go physically one time. And this is a separate story in itself, but my ex-wife just ran out on my 13-month-old son and I. Like, I was at work. He was at the babysitter's when I got the call that she was on the train, leave. I was like,
wow.
Oh, okay. And mind you, I was that dad. I was working 10 to 14 hours a day. I didn't know what time this kid ate. I didn't know, what time he napped. I didn't know what medicines he took. I didn't know any of that stuff. And so you get that stigma that once you're a parent, you just drop everything and you raise your kid. And so that's what I did. I stopped playing basketball. I stopped running. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped all of that stuff. And you think you just have to shovel junk food down your kid's throat. And so if the kid's going to eat junk food, then I may as well eat junk food. Right. And then next thing you know, I went from having the body of an all-American athlete just a few years prior to now I'm like 50 pounds overweight. Mm-hmm. And so I stepped out of the shower this one day and I caught my reflection. And it wasn't even about the weight. It was just the fact that you are an all-American. Mm-hmm. Like the level of dedication and discipline that it takes to reach that level. And I'm going to let the fact that she decided to abandon us make me lose who I am. So right. I was like, no, like that's not happening. I went through and I got all the junk out of my house. Had I known better back then, I would have donated it, but I just put it in the bag and threw it in the dumpster. Right. I found a gym that had babysitting, joined the gym again. I bought a jogging stroller, and I had friends down at the basketball court, so they would take turns watching them while I played. And so, awesome. And so I got back to doing all the things that I enjoy. In less than 5 months, I knocked off 45 pounds. And I was like, you know what? That's never going to happen again. So now the next evolution is I want to start competing in track again. Because track was where I reached the All-American status. So I want to get back on the track. And so now this was before I was into fitness. So I was a restaurant manager then. So being an athlete, it's like you kind of know how to train, but not really. Right. So because like had I knew back then what I know now about how the body works and the energy systems, oh my Lord, I would have been unstoppable. But so I'm just doing what I know, and I'm training, not realizing I was overtraining one particular area. And so the time comes for the track meets, the Masters Championships, 2009. And I get out there, the long jump is up first. So I run down, I felt a little tug in my right quad, but it wasn't enough to stop me. So I kept going and I ended up winning the long jump. And so high jump was up next. Now the high jump was my main sport. And so I get out there and we'll fast forward a bit, is I won my age bracket. So I was in the 30 to 34 age bracket at the time.
Nice.
But there was still a 45-year-old jumping. And the
Mm.
way my competitive spirit is set up, I can't let him beat me. I can't do it. And so my ex at the time even said, she's like, you already won. It's like, what do you have to prove? And I said, everything. Like, because again, that's just how I'm wired. And so I get out there, I jump, I make it, he jumps, he makes, actually he jumped first. But anyway, so we get out to the next height, he jumps, he misses it, I jump, I make it. So now points wise, I'm ahead of him. And so he ends up making it. So on the next one, he goes, he misses it. I go, I miss it, but now I feel a tug in my left knee. And now I had tendonitis in that knee at that point for like, I don't know, 12 years, I want to say. So it was nothing abnormal to feel discomfort there, although the tug felt a little different. And so I yelled over to my ex, said, throw me the tape. I said, I'll tape it. I said, because I don't think he has it in him to make this jump. So I said, let me take it. Let me get one last jump, and then we'll be good. Little did we know, I was very good after this one last jump. So I get up there, and when I tell you the conditions couldn't have been any more perfect. Like the sun was perfect, the wind was perfect. I felt good,
Nice.
outside of that tug. So like this was my moment. Like this is what I trained for. It was like just 5 months prior, I was out of shape and couldn't even run a quarter mile. And here we are. I'm about to get right back to championship form. And so I'm coming down to do my jump. I plant. I saw white. When I came to, I was on the ground. I looked down at my left knee and it wasn't there.
Oh.
Yeah, it went about that far up my quad.
Oh man.
So my patella tendon and some other stuff in there just completely gave way. And that's not even the worst part of the story, believe it or not. So we'll fast forward again. In the ER now, and the ER doctor comes in. So the EMTs had put a brace on. He undoes. So he undoes the brace, and without missing a beat, he just looks down and says, "Ooh, you're never gonna run or jump again."
Oof.
And I just got back into shape. My fourth and fifth children, I have twin boys, were 4 months old. And I had the 3 other kids. I had a 2-year-old. And then my older kids, I think they were 8 and 10 at the time, or 7 and 10. And so I'm like, I start crying. I'm thinking like, I'll never be able to run around with my twin boys. Like they aren't even walking yet. And just thinking about the 2-year-old, because she was active as hell. It's like, I'm not gonna be able to take her to the park and run around the sand anymore. And just all these negative thoughts just took over my emotions and my mind. And then I got right back to me again. I was like, whoa. And I'll be good to your show and I'll censor what I said. But I said, you don't effing know me like that.
Yeah.
I said, so this is what we're going to do. You're going to fix my knee and then I'll take it from there. And I did. So I started physical therapy and they gave me minimums to do each day. They did not give me maximums.
Oh.
So when I tell you, while I was out of work, like they gave me a machine, it's called a CPM machine that helps you bend your leg.
Yeah.
They said minimum 3 hours a day. I was on that baby sun up to sundown.
Oh.
All day long, bending. And I had this machine because two of my muscles in the quad had full atrophy. They went completely dead. And so I had to electrostim them. It took 3 months for them to contract again, but same thing, all day long. I had that thing just trying to get them muscles to fire. And once they finally fired, I said, the comeback is happening. It's definitely happening. So they said I was gonna be in PT for 18 months. I got out in 4, and I ran 5 months later. Granted, I looked like a newborn giraffe, but I still ran. And so to close out this part of the story is where it changed. So I started doing obstacle races. I was back to playing basketball and playing volleyball, but I got hurt on the track. And so it took 7 years and a kidney donation to my sister later, because where that's relevant is they have an Olympic style competition for transplant recipients, for living donors, and for deceased donor families. And so I knew of this event because one of my cousins had, she had kidney issues pretty much her entire life. And so I know she competed in it a couple times. So once I did the donation with my sister, I was like, I can compete in these transplant games, and then that would be the perfect completion of the comeback. I said, because if I don't get back out on that track, then the injury still wins.
Right.
Even though I was able to do other things, but I still had that fear, because in an instant, I went from being in the best shape of my life at 34 to having a walker during my rehab. So it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And so it happened 2016 in Cleveland, Ohio. I didn't even have any expectations for the high jump. And I ended up winning it. So like I won the whole thing representing Team New England. And from 2016 through now, I haven't lost.
That's amazing.
I haven't lost. I beat everyone, even the 30-year-olds and everyone else. Like overall, I've won everyone since. And I broke the 100-meter world record for the transplant games at 11.3 seconds. And again, it's like, I just tell that not to really brag. I tell that to, see how I said not really brag, like I'm bragging a little.
You deserve to brag a little, let's be honest.
But it's like, that's the power of letting somebody else define your future. Had I just let what that doctor said sink in and just let that become my reality, then my story wouldn't be as powerful as it is.
Right. And I love, and the reason I did this episode this way, this introduction this way, is because your story is so central to who you are and what you do, to shut up and grind, and really helping people step into their greatness, or more importantly, share their greatness, right? Because that's where the story brand comes in general. Is really sharing your story. And kind of highlighting how your story affects your life and gives you that expertise to then help others. So tell us a little bit about Story Brand, kind of what it is and why people are wants to use it.
And in typical Rob fashion, I'm going to answer your question with a story.
There you go.
So in Providence, I'm a volunteer coach for a group called the Social Enterprise Greenhouse, where we help startups take their idea and actually turn it into a business. And so where I come in is I help people with their pitches and, with their pitch / brand story. So I was working with 3 women. This was 3 weeks ago. And as I'm working with the 3 of them, so the first one, she started her business because she wanted to help people with chronic illness. It's a holistic healing business. Mm-hmm. And so as I'm listening to her pitch, it was very generic. It didn't really speak to any one person, and there was no lean in moment. Mm-hmm. It was like that, like when I was telling my story about the knee, and I looked down and it wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right? That's a lean in moment. It's like, holy crap, what happened? Yes. So I gave her some pointers. I said, all right, now do another take. So she goes through again, give her pointers, do another take. After this 3rd take, she tells me she survived a stroke at the age of 36.
Wow. And that's a lean in moment.
Yeah. I said, why did it take 30 minutes for that to surface? I said, that has to be at the heart of your story. Yeah. Because you went through a chronic illness. It's like some people have lifelong side effects from a stroke. I said, and you started your business because you found a way to reverse the effects of what happened to you. I said, that has to be woven into your pitch. And so she said, well, I'm really not sure how to tie it in. I was like, you know what? Free of charge. Let's get on the phone. Let's get on Zoom for 1 hour and I'll help you get clarity with that. And as I was talking with her, another woman, one of the other women was like, well, I have a pretty powerful story as well. And I was like, okay. I said, do you want to share what happened? And she's like, yeah, because she was kind of hesitant about it. And she's like, I just don't know if it would be too over the top. I said, okay, just if you're comfortable sharing, then share. So I guess in her 20s, so she's around my age now. So in her 20s, her first love committed suicide in front of her.
Oof.
You know, and so same thing though, her business is helping people cope with trauma. And
there you
so,
go.
So again, it ties in. It's like you don't have to figure out how to weave it in. You started your business because of what you went through. I said, but the thing with storytelling is we're not telling the story just to highlight us.
Yes.
You know? So I said, I told her, I said, it's not about what happened. It's about 1 second after it happened through today. I said, you have to live with that vision. You probably still have nightmares. Your heart probably still aches. And all of that needs to be into your brand story, because for someone else who's going through trauma, that's the lean-in moment. It's like, I'm going to work with her because she knows firsthand what I'm feeling.
Yes.
So when I read these brand stories that are just like a resume, you know, well, so-and-so spent 20 years doing this and has this education and this many degrees, and they have a big house in Peoria, wherever Peoria is. And it's like, that's all well and good, but nobody cares.
That's just it, right? I mean, that's the thing that I think people miss so often, is that your ideal clients honestly don't care about you. They don't care about your accolades. They don't care about your certifications. They don't care about any of that. They care about how you can help them.
Yes.
And the reason I love brand stories so much is because you can connect with someone else's, like there's some piece, even though maybe I didn't have anyone commit suicide in my life, but I can still connect with the trauma that the woman went through.
Yes.
And that is where that real connection comes in when it comes to your marketing and your story.
Yeah, because as you know, there's only five emotions. You know, it's like we can act like there's more, but there's only really 5 emotions. So whatever caused you sadness or hurt or anger is going to resonate regardless of what the source was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like you can take someone who went through an awful, awful divorce, telling that story of watching your loved one commit suicide in front of you, that the hurt is still there.
Exactly.
You know, it's still there. And one thing I want to clarify is when we say people don't care, they don't care in that moment. You know, so people don't get on my fitness website because they're feeling great about themselves.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's like they get on my website because they hit that point, like I told about my shower story. When I stepped out, I was like, I'm done. Like at that moment, I don't want to read your resume. I want to see how you help people.
Exactly.
You know, I want to see what you've been through. Like, what have you been? Why should I entrust you to help me get to a place, you know, where I want to be?
Absolutely.
And that's also the differentiator between someone who went to high school, went to college, got a degree, got a job, working with a certain demographic. It's completely different when you've experienced what you're working in. It's completely different. It's like I had that moment in the mirror. So when people come to me and say, I let myself go, I'm like, listen, I was there. I looked at my reflection. I said, but there's a difference, because when I looked at mine, I didn't just look at everything I didn't like about me. I looked beyond it and I saw that all-American athlete again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I said, I need to feed him. Yeah. I'm not worried about what I see. I see what's beyond it. And that's the power of brand story.
And I think it's essential in the coaching industry more than anything else, because coaching is a very personal kind of industry where someone really needs to be able to connect with your story and how you got from point A to point Z, whether it's fitness or weight loss or money or business. Doesn't really matter what you teach, what you coach on. These people have to be able to go, they get it. They understand where I'm at now and can help me. More importantly, they get it and they moved past it and move to that next point. Like you said earlier,
Yeah.
it's not what happened from before, it's what you did from that point forward.
Yeah.
And that's how brand story can really help coaches to connect with their clients.
Yes. And think about this. How many times have you gone to a doctor and asked for their credentials?
Never.
Never. Even as a fitness coach, I've coached well over 2,000 people, maybe even far beyond that at this point. Because I've been saying 2,000 people for a few years now, so it's probably closer to 3 now, and only 3 people have asked me about my certifications,
yes.
and all 3 of them were former trainers.
Yes.
Yes. Nobody knows what CPT means, what CSCS means, and NPT. Like other trainers know. The average person, they couldn't care less. Like, listen, I just sat on the couch, I ate an entire tub of ice cream and cried my eyes out. So like
all they want to know is you can help them, right?
Yes.
Like you can help them get from whatever their lowest low is right now to where you're at or close to or something. You can help move them and transition them in that way.
Because like I remind people all the time, there are people who are highly educated who are in jail right now. So leading with all of that stuff, I mean, it has its place in your brand story, but it shouldn't be the first thing that you lead with.
Yes.
It's like mine for my Speak About Yourself program is I talk a lot about the passing of my father. Because people always say, it's the worst thing that you can do is bury a parent. And I would argue, maybe not. It depends on the circumstance. Because now I know I'm not trying to contradict what I said earlier about, the hurt is the same, but there's different levels to the hurt.
Quite frankly, burying your parent isn't nearly as bad as burying your child, right?
Well,
At least from my perspective, like there's a different, deeper level of hurt if you're burying your child versus burying a parent.
Yeah, well, even sticking with the parent theme, there's still different levels. Like with my dad, we knew it was coming. So we had time to mentally prepare. We had to end care for him. So they unsedated him enough to where he could shake his head yes and shake his head no. There were 3 generations of us surrounding his bed. We all got to hug him, tell him we loved him, and say goodbye and thank him and say goodbye. So we had that moment with him. And plus I had him for 45 years. Yeah. So I had a guest on my show, I think it was just 2 or 3 weeks ago, where his mom was pregnant with him while his dad was fighting in Vietnam, and his dad didn't survive. So he never even knew his father. So why am I gonna be ungrateful that I had mine for 45 years?
Yes.
And now the other side to that, one of my fitness clients, she found out this was just maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little longer than that. Her father at 62 just dropped. So
I do think
that's a different level.
It is.
To be completely blindsided like that, no preparation. So for me to tell my dad's story like it's the worst thing on earth, like that's not it. And that's just recognizing that there are things out there that are far worse than to just say I lost my dad.
Yeah.
He had a pretty. I'm kind of envious of his ending, to be honest with you. So, like I remember I told you earlier, he's an engineer, and he always told us when he can't use his hands anymore the way he's used to, that's when his time on this earth was going to be gone. And he almost called it. Like the last thing he did before he went to the hospital. My son is a mechanic. He and my son fixed my mom's car. He stayed up till 1 a.m, even though they had to leave at 4 a.m. to go to the hospital. But he stayed up and made sure he finished that job. Then he went to the hospital. And again, that's the essence of shut up and grind. Like the dude's hanging on to life by a thread, but he's like, I'm not stopping till this car is fixed.
And that is such a powerful, I think, example to have. And I do love the theme of shut up and grind, right? Like whatever you went through in the past, it matters. And what really matters is what you do from this point on. Yes. When I'm working with people, that's my sentence. What are you going to do now? Yeah. Okay, that happened. What are you going to do now?
that happened. What are you going to do now? And so there was one of my fitness coach friends here in Rhode Island. She went live on Instagram this one time, and I've never listened to her live on Instagram. But one of my personal training clients just happened to cancel. And so while I was on the computer doing my work, I got the alert that Coach Costa was online. I said, what? Let's see what Coach has to say while I'm doing my work. And this is where I totally believe in the law of attraction. And so the guest she was talking to, she survived a stroke and a heart attack in her mid-30s.
Wow.
And so as I'm listening to her tell her story, now I was just piecing together my speaking program at this time, because I knew there was a need for it. And so as I'm listening to her tell her story, I was like, there's so many details she's leaving out that could just add more of those lean in moments to her story. But there's one thing to just say, I had a stroke at 36. People are like, wow, that sucks. But when you really get into it, kind of how before I got into into my injury, I gave you the where I was before the injury. I said, so after it, I reached out to her, and I didn't know her from a hole in the wall. She didn't know me. I just told, hey, I listened to you live, said, I think your story is great, but I think we can tell it better. I said, so if you're interested, I can help you with that. If you want to just connect, let's talk it through, see what you think. And so I spent about maybe an hour with her twice. And she's now one of the faces of the American Heart Association.
Wow.
Just from telling her story. And I'm not sitting here trying to act like I did it, because I didn't. All I did was listen to her story, and I asked the right questions.
Yes.
And I just asked her things that she didn't really think to share.
Yes.
It's like, no, that's relevant. Like, trust me, to just come out and say, I had a stroke. But like, if you work on what are you working on? What are you building toward? Like, what was your life looking like? And then it happened.
Yes.
Like, then that's the lean in moment.
Right.
So like, just like you, I stopped reading my guest bios because I like the story to just naturally unfold. So even though I know what's coming, the way I ask my questions, it's like I want to build to that. So that way people can be like, oh my God. It's like you went through that and you still are doing this.
Right.
Like, and that's the power of that brand story.
Well, and here's the other thing. If you really think about it, when you can develop your own brand story, when you can ask yourself these questions, it gives you more ability to ask your clients these questions, yes. Right? To really pull out their story so that you're better able to help them
yes.
do the next thing. Whatever your business is, being able to understand your client's story helps to move them along.
And that's literally every industry. It doesn't
absolutely
matter. It doesn't matter what you want to accomplish. People come to me and say, I want to be able to run a 5K faster. Okay, why? Like, what will that do for you? Are you trying to compete? Like, is it something you're running from? Is it something you're running towards? It's like, there's a reason why that's so important to you. And once we get to the heart of that reason, I can now push you in a proper way. If you want to lose weight, why? I helped someone start a podcast. All right, why do you want to start this podcast? What's your message? Who's your target audience? What is it about your story that you want to get through with each episode? Like, it's deeper than just, I want to do this because it pays well, or just whatever the reason is. So like, once you get to the heart of that, so like my main story is stop limiting yourself. Yes. And more importantly, stop letting other people put their limitations on you. It's like, just because you can't do it doesn't mean I can't do it.
Yep, absolutely. And what it also allows for you to do is really take them back to that why, right? Because oftentimes as people are going through a process, whatever the process it is, it doesn't matter if it's marketing, fitness, coaching, doesn't matter. When they're going through the process, sometimes they hit a wall and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. And being able to really take them back to what is this going to do for you? Why did you really start this? Can help to give them that shove they need.
Yes. And so I'll tell another quick story. So one of the guys I train with, he lost a son at the age of 9. And, I've never had to bury a son. So I don't know what that's like, but I've lost people. So going back to the correlation, it's like I've lost people. And so it was on a Monday holiday. I do these big classes called throwdowns. They're an hour and a half long, and I just beat on them, right? So
that sounds amazing. That's fantastic marketing right there.
You'll be surprised because people flock to it.
I
know. And so this one class, he's leaning up against the wall, and I can tell he was kind of emotional. So I gave him a few minutes to let him do what he's doing. Then I go over to him. I was like, B, what's going on? And he's crying. He's like, I just miss him. Yeah, he's like, I just miss him so much. I'm like, I'm sure you do. I said, do you believe that he's watching you? And he's like, honestly, I do. I said, and do you think right now in this moment he likes what he sees? And so he kind of leans up a little. He looks over. I was like, because I think he wants to see his dad kicking ass. I think he wants to see his dad throwing these weights around and pushing that sled. I think he wants to round up the other kid angels and be like, that's my dad right there. And then, he kind of chuckled at that too. He's like, you're absolutely right. I said, nothing you can do can bring him back, but you can, even if he was here, you would have to be the best version of you for him.
Right.
Right. I said, just because he's up in heaven now doesn't mean you don't have to be the best version of you for him.
Yes, absolutely.
And he shook my hand and he was like, you know what? He's like, you're absolutely right. And then he went back and he crushed that workout. But it's like, it takes people like us who are in this space to help people realize even in your worst moment, there's still strength. Mm-hmm. There were days I would love to hug my dad again and hear his voice and just get those life lessons, because he was always there with them life lessons. I would love those moments. But again, it goes back to I'm being selfish. Mm-hmm. Because he was 78 years old. He would have totally sucked as an old man. It's like if he had to be on an oxygen tank or just as his strength got less and less and less, he would have been miserable. Absolutely miserable. So that actually warms my heart that he didn't have to go through that level of decline. Yeah. So even in his passing, there's still positives there.
There is. And in your story, that's the thing I think everyone gets to be aware of. In your story, no matter what it is, there is always a positive. There is always a way to direct it so that you get growth and change out of your story. Yes. And as a coach or a consultant or really any business owner, if you can verbalize that to your audience, to your ideal clients, and connect with them from that level of trauma, whatever the trauma, big, small, whatever the thing is that you did and you overcame, and show them that there is a way to overcome, I think that is where you can make an immense change in your business and in your marketing.
Yes. Yeah, and I'll share one more. So as I mentioned earlier, I was working with those 3 women. So now the third woman, so she just heard a stroke survivor. She just heard someone who watched her first love commit suicide. And she's like, mine isn't anywhere near theirs. I said, whoa. I said, before you even tell me what it is you do not sell yourself short. Yes. I said, because I can help you make any story sound absolutely incredible. Right. And so she says, well, my business is creating, how does she call it? Creating outdoor learning spaces for disadvantaged schools, like schools in disadvantaged areas and low income areas. And I said, you trying to tell me that's not powerful?
Just what you do is powerful beyond what your story is on why you do it.
Yeah, see,
just and that is powerful.
And now let's add the story on top of it. So as I started picking her brain, so they lived not really in a low income area, but they were like lower middle class. Mm-hmm. And then her father got a better job, higher paying job, moved them out to where there was woods and just more nature and trees, because where they were living, there wasn't any of that.
Right, concrete jungle.
Yes, and she fell in love with the nature. And so what she wants to do is she wants to go to schools that don't have nature, that all they have is a concrete jungle, and build in nature. And I was like, that is absolutely life-changing.
Yes.
I was like, and you just sat there and sold it short. I was like, if you tell that story about being that little girl living where you lived, describe what it was like living there, the feelings that went through your mind. And then when your dad got that job and your family moved, what changed for you? Why did you fall in love with nature? What does it do for you? And you extract those feelings and you want to help other kids feel what you felt. That is incredible.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know?
And I think sometimes that's a huge lightning bolt for, I think, a lot of people. Don't discount your story.
Yes.
Your story is powerful to somebody. Somebody needs to hear your story.
Mm-hmm. And one person hearing your story can save their life. So I had a guest on my show. She was suffering from systemic lupus. And told you, I have a lot of guests.
Yes.
I can send you away. It's like all these stories I keep telling from people I interact with. and so she was suffering from systemic lupus. And the doctors basically told her, there's nothing else we can do for you. And so she turned to juicing and healthy eating. Yep. And it reversed the effects of her systemic lupus. And so she started sharing her story. She got picked up by a local news station. And so maybe it was like 2 or 3 weeks after her segment aired, she got a random Facebook message from a woman who thanked her for sharing her story because she was on the verge of ending her life.
Oh,
from dealing with the effects of systemic lupus.
Yeah.
So someone that she never knew, she stopped her from ending her life. Like that's the beauty of telling your story. Maybe you won't get 1 million shares, maybe you won't get 1 million likes, but you just might save someone's life.
That is for sure. That is absolutely for sure. No matter what your story is, there's someone that needs to hear it. And more importantly, there's someone out there that needs to hear what happened before and then what you did from that point on, the change that it came over in your life.
And they need to hear it the way you tell it.
Yes.
Because I tell the story of my dad's passing completely different from my brother. Right? One of my brothers, he took it very, very hard. Very, very hard. And again, there's different experiences. Like my parents live here in Rhode Island. You know, he's in New Jersey now. So it's like if I wanted to see them, I'm 30 minutes away. So yes. I had a lot more time. So I didn't have any regrets in my dad's passing. Whereas I think they might have been, well, I could have came up more. I could have done this. And I didn't have to deal with that. So I can't discount his story. Like I can't tell him how my dad's passing should make him feel.
Right.
You know? And so like he has to tell his story through his lens. And then there's someone out there who's dealing with that same way, the way he sees it. They might hear me talk and be like, I'm not there.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
So it's the exact same person, the exact same situation. Like I said, I'm one of 7 siblings. You might get 7 different stories on how my dad passed.
Yes. And that's very true. And it's true for life and business, right? You may be in the exact same situation. You guys may have been in the same car crash, and what you experienced and what they experienced were 2 different things, and how it affected your life after, 2 different things. Yes. The choices you make after is where you get to highlight the power of being able to move forward.
Yeah, see, and it doesn't even really matter what the choices were, because there's still power. Like I chose to just to look at it from gratitude. You know, I had him for 45 years. He didn't live to be 95 and miserable. You know, it's like, you know, he fixed mom's car towards the very end. We got to say goodbye to him. Excuse me. But like I said, you know, just through my brother's lens or my sister's lens, you know, they just looked at it differently. And it's not up to me to judge their story. See, that's one of the biggest things with storytelling is people have that fear of judgment. People have the fear of sharing too much. It's like the woman with the suicide said, like, I wasn't sure if that would be over the top. I'm like, that's why you started your business.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that's what holds people back, but not realizing by you sharing your story as authentically and as vulnerable as you can share it, you're going to attract the right people.
Yes. Yes. And that's what effective marketing is, period, right? Is attracting the right people. So instilling story brand into like your story, into your marketing and sales and your business overall really does connect you with the people you're supposed to be helping in the long run. So
see, go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
No, and I was gonna say, and when people describe what they do, so I'll use someone as an example. I'm not gonna name blast him though, but he's a fitness trainer. And so he was one of the first people I put through my Speak About Yourself program because I wanted to make sure it can really be transformational. Like I don't want it to just be another storytelling program, but speaker coaching program. I like this one is gonna disrupt the industry.
Nice.
Like that's what I wanted. And so as I'm going through with him, I was like, all right, why did you become a fitness trainer? And so he just starts saying, well, because I'm good at this and I'm good at that and I'm good at this. And if you listen to me, you'll do this. Like I said, okay, that's good, but that's all about you. I said, so imagine if you were on stage talking to 500 people, how would that message be received? You know, it's like, what are they going to resonate with from that? So think about that. If you go to somebody's about section and you see what you just said, where's the lean in moment?
Yep.
Right? Because I can find 100 other people with your credentials. Right? So what is going to separate you from the herd? I said, now flip it. Ask me the exact same question. So he asked me the question. I said, because I'm tired of people having low self-esteem. I'm tired of people hating the way their bodies look. I'm hating the fact that people look into the mirror and start crying. I'm hating that people have half a closet full of clothes that they're hoping to get into one day. You know, and I said, so just take that. I still started with but I made it about them.
Yes.
You know, so those people sitting in that crowd can be like, I got a couple things on my closet I can't fit. You know, or I avoid mirrors at all costs. You know, so like you want to bring out scenarios to where they're like, that's me.
Yes.
You know, then at the end of all of that, you can say, I've been training for over 20 years. I've trained over 3,000 people. Like then you can add the education on now that you suck them in.
Right.
It's like okay, it's like this guy gets me.
Yes. And that's the thing, right? That's what we want to do. That's what we always want to do is speak to our ideal clients so that they understand we get them. Yes. In some way, shape, or form. We've been there, we've done that. We get where they're at and we can help them take them where they want to go.
Yes. And one of the women I'm going to connect you with, I actually spoke on her platform the other day. So she's a chiropractor and she has a masterclass with other chiropractors coming up. And she wanted to talk to them about story creation. And she's like, but it's chiropractics. Like how would you expect us to like insert our brand story about it? I said, okay, well, you know, you have a PhD, right? Yeah. So why'd you pick chiropractic? Like, what was it about chiropractic that made you invest your time and your money into getting it in that field? And then what are the benefits of chiropractic? It's like, no, we help with healing, we help with this. And she went through all the, I said, right there, you have the story right there. So it's like, I chose this because I want to help people no longer be in pain. And as a chiropractor, I get to get up every single day and help people relieve the symptoms of pain, whether it's from sitting at a desk too long, whether you're recovering from a car accident, right? And now you start talking to things that people can lean into. It's like, yeah,
exactly.
My neck hasn't been right since I got rear-ended in 2006. You know, it's like, I never thought about going to a chiropractor. You know, so that's how you interweave your personal life into what you do. And then now that makes you a human being. Because I hate watching those ads where it's the guy or woman in a big mansion and then they're talking and walking and then they get into a Lamborghini that's probably rented. You know what I mean? And it's like that doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't. Like I'm not motivated by things. Like, I want to know, what was your rock bottom?
Yes.
And then how did you pivot from that rock bottom?
Yes.
Right. If you take me along that journey, I will absolutely work with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally couldn't. I think that is one of the most insightful things that my audience has probably heard in a long time.
Oh.
The journey that your ideal clients go through, they want to go with you. They want to travel with you.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right, Robert, it was fantastic having you on the show today. I appreciate it so much. Can you let our audience know how to get a hold of you? What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, the best way is robertbfoster.com. So there might be a minute of downtime because I have a new site being created because I'm ready to launch the program. So
nice.
I actually have a meeting with the designer tomorrow, so we can see how it's coming along. But at some point, you're going to have to take down the old one and transfer it over to the new one. So if that happens, Facebook is the best way for me at Robert B. Foster.
Awesome. Awesome. I will put some links in the show notes so people can reach out to you and connect. I would encourage you, if you are struggling with your story brand, figuring out how to do it, what to say, when to say it, reach out to Robert and let him help you walk through that, because your story brand can really make a difference in your business. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
My pleasure. Thanks again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Marketing Matchmaker podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear your feedback. Please head over to iTunes and leave a review so we can hear from you. And if you are a coach, consultant, or online course creator who are looking to grow your business, increase your income, and scale your impact, connect with me at yourmarketingmatchmaker.com. I look forward to hearing from you.